What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Ben Ballion, back with another episode of the Sports Pod. And today's episode is just going to be a sports rundown. I have stuff ranging from baseball to basketball to football, some New York topics, some national topics. I'll get into all of it on the other side of the intro. Hit it.
DiVincenzo at three. Bang! Wall, he jumps, it's gone, he did it, Pete Alonso with the most memorable home run of his career.
All right, getting into the episode and starting with the New York Yankees. This is a Yankee team that was hit hard by that June swoon, that Boone June swoon. They finished the month just one game under 500 at 13-14, but the Rays are slowly but surely creeping up in that American League East. As it stands right now, the Rays are just a game and a half out of first place, and there was a point in this month just a couple days ago where they were only a half a game out. So the Yankees have to right the ship quickly or they will fall out of first place. On the other side, the Mets already have fallen out of first place. They had a 12-15 month of June, so it's worse for the Mets. But going back to the Yankees, because I'm going to spend some time on them to start this episode, I'm looking at how Aaron Boone has managed this team. Aaron Boone has been soft. Aaron Boone does not get on his players. Oh, but hold on a second, because there was an instance recently where he did openly yell at J.C. Escarra, the backup catcher on this team, who has been sort of a feel-good story this season. You're not expecting much out of him, but the way I look at it is kind of like Boone needs to lay into somebody. You're not going to lay into Judge. You're not going to lay into Fried. You're not going to lay into Goldschmidt. J.C. Escarra, he can be the whipping boy. He doesn't do that much for the team. And it's not like everyone's like, oh, J.C. Escarra, fan favorite, stuff like that. He is a feel-good story, but he's not necessarily a premier player on this Yankees team. He's somebody that can get yelled at, and Aaron Boone won't get in trouble for. A guy that Aaron Boone hasn't yelled at, a guy that Aaron Boone hasn't laid into yet is Anthony Volpe, but the fans certainly have. Anthony Volpe has quickly become the whipping boy on this Yankees team. Pretty much every year the Yankees have one whipping boy. If you go a couple years back, you had Aaron Hicks back in 2023. You had Josh Donaldson the year before. Just guys that haven't been playing well. Volpe's not going to get DFA'd, but Aaron Hicks and Josh Donaldson both were DFA'd, but just going to the root cause of Volpe being viewed as a whipping boy and as less than the rest of his teammates. The first instance I look at is in the Angels series. It was a couple weeks back at this point, and Anthony Volpe, in the first game of that series, he came up with the bases loaded with the game on the line in extra innings, I believe, and he swung and grounded out on the first pitch. Now, at the time, I think I recorded an episode a day or two later, and I said, I'm okay with Anthony Volpe swinging at that pitch. It was in the zone. He wanted to take advantage of the first pitch he saw. Sometimes that's the best pitch you'll see. And I still stand by that reasoning. But I am playing devil's advocate here and saying what the Yankee fan would think. If you are a fan of the New York Yankees, the 27-time World Series champion New York Yankees, you want Anthony Volpe to take a pitch there. You want Anthony Volpe to work the count. In that game, you were coming off getting swept by your arch rival Boston Red Sox. And actually, I don't even know if we could call the Red Sox their arch rivals anymore. I think the Astros have become more of a rival. I think the Mets in the past 2 seasons or so have certainly upped their game a level. That rivalry has gone up a notch, and the Red Sox are just kind of fallen out of that really arch rival, the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry, which was such a coveted matchup back in the 2000s. But nowadays, it's kind of lost some of that juice, some of that fire, that fight. where if you were watching a Yankees-Red Sox series back in the early 2000s, you kind of expected a fight to break out, whether it was between A-Rod and Manny Ramirez or whoever. It was just, you're not going to see that nowadays. These teams are completely different, and the game is just different, and it doesn't feel like there's any hate between Aaron Boone and Alex Cora. There's just not as much juice or energy in that rivalry, and that's okay. It doesn't really matter. It's just that the Yankees and Red Sox back maybe 20 years ago were one of the premier rivalries in the sport. But getting back to what I was saying, the Yankees got swept by the Red Sox over the weekend, right? And then it's a Monday night game under the lights of Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Anthony Volpe comes up. The bases are loaded. They're down 1-0. The Yankees need one base hit to win the game. And Anthony Volpe gets a first pitch slider. Volpe swings, he rolls over to third base, he grounds out, right? It's not that big of a deal to me, but as a Yankee fan, you have to be expecting Volpe to take the first pitch, taking till strike one most likely, and he didn't do that. Anthony Volpe is a player that does like to swing first pitch quite a bit. He's got one of the higher swing rates on first pitches across the MLB. I don't see a problem with that. A lot of the time, the first pitch is the best pitch you're going to get. I saw the same reasoning. But as it's developed, there has been other instances of Volpe getting out to end the game. And I feel like at least 2 to 3 times a week, a Yankees loss has ended with Anthony Volpe making the last out. And that's just unlucky for Volpe. Baseball is a game of failure. You're going to get out. You're going to get out to end games. But it's just in repeated clutch spots, Anthony Volpe has not delivered. And that's what the Yankee fans have problems with. That Anthony Volpe has no clutch gene. He's in his 3rd season now, and he's not delivering to the level that Yankee fans were expecting. He was a golden boy. The Yankees could have shipped him off to the Mariners a couple trade deadlines back to pick up Luis Castillo at that deadline. But no, they wanted to prospect hug with Anthony Volpe. So obviously his expectations are going to increase in that scenario. So Yankee fans have problems with him. Yankee fans, they're just not okay with this rut, this slump that he's been in, this funk that it seems like everybody in New York is going through except for the generational Juan Soto and the captain of your New York Yankees, Aaron Judge. Those are really the only 2 players who have continued to perform over this extended losing stretch from both of our New York baseball teams. Okay, now moving on to my New York Mets. Hopefully, at this rate, the Mets are going to round into shape in late August or early September with all the injuries they have with Kodai Senga, with Sean Manaea, with Jesse Winker. I hope everyone is back by August 15th. They have a week and a half to get back to normal, and then they're cooking on all cylinders again by August 25th. That's my ideal situation right now. Well, I wouldn't say that's ideal because I want them to start winning again now. The Mets cannot continue to lose at this rate going into the month of July because they can get buried in this NL East real quick. It is such a competitive division with the Phillies. The Braves are, I'm not sure on the Braves. I don't think they're going to overtake the Mets at any point this season. But one thing I've learned is you can never count the Braves out. That is the one lesson I've learned being a Mets fan. The Braves are always going to be in the mix, and there's nothing you can do about it. So for me, the Mets cannot have another losing month this season. They had their terrible month of June. They had a month where they just didn't play up to their standards. I mean, Francisco Lindor was not very good. The rest of the lineup outside of Juan Soto was not very good. But I outed Lindor specifically because I think it has something to do with his toe injury. I think Francisco Lindor's slump has a direct correlation to his I think it's either a sprained or fractured pinky toe. I talked about it when it happen. I said if Lindor goes into a slump right now, you need to put him on the 10-day IL. You need to put him on the 15-day IL because Lindor's production directly leads to Mets success. When Francisco Lindor doesn't play well, the Mets don't play well. He is the driving force in this Mets team, and I do think when David Wright's number is retired later this month, I think that Francisco Lindor will get that C on his chest. I think Francisco Lindor will be named captain of your New York Mets. He's been a leader. He's produced. He's had a ridiculous stat line ever since moving into the leadoff spot, and he's just been that guy for the Mets. And if you remember, back in 2021, I would be shocked if we were having this conversation because people hated Lindor. When him and Javi Baez had the whole thumbs down thing. When him and Jeff McNeil got into a fight over the squirrels and the rats. Whatever it was. Francisco Lindor wasn't a leader of this team. He wasn't producing. That was the word I was looking for. Producing at the rate Mets fans were expecting. But 2022, he picked it up. He played better. And obviously last year, from June on, he was just awesome. And this year, he started off really strong, but the last couple weeks, he hasn't played well. All right, now getting to the most recent series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Mets were outscored 30-4 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. If you look to the National League standings right now, let me pull it up real quick. Full standings. The Pittsburgh Pirates in the National League Central are last in their division. They're sporting a 36-50 record. They are 14 games out of first place, 14 games behind the Chicago Cubs. That's the team the Mets let beat them 30-4 over the course of 3 games. And let's just take a look at the run differential for the Pirates this season. -35. And that number was increased by 26 this weekend. So if you're going to look before this weekend, if you're looking at this from Thursday of last week, the Pittsburgh Pirates would have had a run differential of -61. If we're looking at who has the highest run differential in the league, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers with it's actually the Yankees with +112. But if you're looking at the next lowest negative, well, yeah, actually the A's have a -140. So they're by far the worst in the league. No other team is in the hundreds. The Orioles have a -73. But you get what I'm saying. They were up there. Oh, the Rockies are actually the worst with -221. But if you get what I'm saying, the Pirates were down there. I think SNY flashed a stat where the Pirates are second to worst or worst in nearly every major hitting category. And they just put up 30 runs on the Mets, a team that has had one of the better pitching staffs in the majors this season. And what I think it was, Frankie Montas wasn't good. I don't know why Paul Blackburn was still in the game after an hour-and-a-half rain delay. Actually, I do know why. It's because this bullpen is so exhausted that Carlos Mendoza had no one to turn to. But even if that's the case, I don't think any pitcher should stay in the game after an hour-and-a-half rain delay. Paul Blackburn didn't get an out after the delay. Blackburn has sucked no matter what this season, but if you leave him in after an hour-and-a-half rain delay, it just gives him an excuse. Carlos Mendoza has done such a good job managing the Mets. This was just a stupid decision, and those are going to happen, but when it happens in a stretch where you've lost 12 out of 15 games, the fans are going to get on you more. The media is going to get on you more because things are just piling up. It's snowballing. We're about a year past the OMG concert on the field after the Mets beat the Astros on Friday Night Baseball. I was thinking about it the other day. The Mets of last year were on a trajectory going straight up. Right now, the trajectory of the 2025 Mets is straight down. They are in such a bad spot because of all the injuries and just because this lineup has not hit with runners in scoring position. The Mets have to be better at hitting in the clutch. That's plain and simple. There's no way around that because there isn't a way around it because you can't win games if you're not driving in runs. That's the end all be all. And I was stuttering a little bit because I was trying to find this message from Steve Cohen. Here's what it was. And I quote, "Tough stretch, no sugarcoating it. I didn't see this coming. I'm as frustrated as everyone else. We will get through this period. Our injured pitching will come back over the next few weeks. It is unlikely that this team's hitting with runners in scoring position will continue at this weak pace. Keep the faith, unquote. I like that from Cohen. It's to the point he's recognizing that this team has been bad, that the Mets haven't been able to win, and he's going to the root causes. He says the pitching will come back over the next couple weeks. I'm not buying that. I know how Kodai Senga comes back from injuries, and let me tell you, he takes time. He doesn't come back right away. He's going to make sure that he is feeling perfect in every aspect of the game, every aspect of his windup, his velocity before he makes his return. He's not going to fight through any injuries. But now, the pitching for this Subway Series is going to go like this. In Game 1, it's going to be Paul Blackburn. In Game 2, it's going to be Frankie Montas. And in Game 3, it's going to be Clay Holmes, who I don't mind Clay Holmes. He's been really good this season. But at any point, I think Holmes can just dip. He's already pitched the most innings in his career. But the other two guys are just terrible. Paul Blackburn is just not a major league pitcher. I wish the Mets would switch Blade Tidwell for Blackburn. And the fact that I want to see Tidwell is not even encouraging because he hasn't been very good either. Paul Blackburn has just been that bad. And with Frankie Montas, you don't know what you're going to get. You might get really good pitching, 5 shutout innings like he threw against the Braves, but you could also get 6 runs like he gave up against the Pirates. It's just a wild card. The Mets and the Yankees are both not in the best situations. However, that's 1 month. A baseball season is 6 months, 162 games. Both of them are within striking distance of first place. I mean, the Mets are 2 games back. The Yankees are atop of their division. So it's not like these teams are just terrible right now. They're playing awful, but it's not like they're buried in their divisions. All right, now moving on to some basketball stuff and starting with the New York Knicks. I got some Knicks notes, I got some Nets notes, and I got one national note here, and then I got one national note on football, and then we'll wrap up this episode. All right, the Knicks, LeBron James is not coming to this team. It's not happening this season. I just can't see a world where LeBron James suits up for the New York Knicks. He had his chance, in 2011, I want to say, when he made his decision? No, it had to be earlier. It might have been 2009, when he took his talents to South Beach to join the Miami Heat. He had his chance when he chose to go back to Cleveland. He had another chance in 2018 when he chose to go to the Lakers. LeBron James does not want to be a New York Knick. I see him riding the rest of his career out as a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. He's got a big old mansion out in California. His whole family is set up there. He's playing with his son, Bronny. Bryce James is going to be entering the draft presumably next year. So this upcoming draft, not the one that he'll play his freshman season at Arizona this year, and then he'll probably enter the draft. So I see LeBron sticking around for most likely this season and then next season and then retiring just so he could play with both of his sons. That would be craziness. I can see it happening, but let's play devil's advocate. Let's imagine here. If the Knicks were to mount a trade package to make a move for LeBron James, what would it take? I don't think it would take much. Bleacher Report had a deal that would send OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson to LA for LeBron. I think there might have been a pick involved, but the guy I would want to move off of is Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, the money would match up whether you move off of Cat or OG. I would say OG is more of a difference maker, whereas Cat, I wasn't very impressed by him this season. I thought there was a lot of room for improvement. I was more excited for Karl Anthony Towns than what we got from him. He wasn't the player Knicks fans were expecting, I don't think. I hated his fadeaways. Some of the three-point shots he took just weren't good enough. If the Knicks were going to make a move for LeBron James, and by the way, I'm not opposed to this, I just can't see it happening. I think you could probably trade LeBron for Cat straight up at this point in his career. I don't think that's you would need any draft picks on either side. If the Knicks had to make a draft pick, had to send over a draft pick, I don't think they have the assets to do it. But I just can't see LeBron ever suiting up in front of the Madison Square Garden crowd. It wouldn't work for me. I don't think it's going to happen. All right, now moving on to some of the moves that they did make. Jordan Clarkson and Gershon Yabusele. They're finally bolstering the bench. They're developing the bench. We've never seen this under Leon Rose. It is amazing. Jordan Clarkson, a bona fide bench scorer, and Yabusele is a guy who averaged 11 points on 39% from deep last year. Plus, he's a solid rebounder. I think both of those moves are solid from Leon Rose. I've said it before. The Knicks don't need the superstar. The Knicks need the role players. They need the other guys that are going to play Robin to Jalen Brunson's Batman. These are the guys that are gonna come in, give you a couple energy minutes off the bench, give you a couple buckets. I'm really excited to see what Yabusele does. He's on a 2-year, $12 million contract, where Clarkson, he's a former Sixth Man of the Year. I'm okay with him because he's on a vet minimum, but what I'm worried about is his shot chucking. I don't want to see Jordan Clarkson chucking up a ton of shots. There was that one game where the Knicks played the Jazz at home last season where Mike Breen was just laying into Clarkson multiple times on the broadcast, where Jordan Clarkson was taking some very bad shots, and it got to a point where it's like, I get the Jazz are a team that's tanking, and I get Jordan Clarkson is a shot-chucking type of guy, but if he does that on the Knicks, it's not going to fly, and whoever they hire as their next head coach has to bench him for that. They can't let Clarkson run free and just shot-chuck, and I know this is all precautionary stuff. Clarkson hasn't done that as a member of the Knicks yet, and that's probably just because he hasn't suited up for the Knicks yet. But this season, I'm getting ready for a different style of basketball. I know Jalen Brunson is probably going to be involved in the head coach search, but I do think Brunson is going to encourage the Knicks to hire a coach that's going to play the bench, that is going to trust the younger guys, trust the Frenchman. Mohamed Diawara is not going to make the roster, but Paco Dadie might get some run this year. Gershon Yabusele is another Frenchman. He'll definitely get a good amount of run. He's probably the backup small forward, power forward at this point. So I would like to see Paco Dadie get some minutes. I would like to see Tyler Kolek get some run this season. I am a strong believer of Tyler Kolek. And the Knicks, if they hire the right coach, it's going to be a fun season, and I think the ceiling of this team does increase if they do end up hiring the right head coach. The problem is, who are they going to hire? The question everyone has been asking. The question that nobody has the answer to. There's actually a lot of people online that think they have the answer, but I just am not excited for any of the head coaching options. Dawn Staley is the most recent report. They're saying that the Knicks reached out to her, where I just don't think it's going to work. This is not disrespecting Dawn Staley. This is not disrespecting women's basketball, but it's just a different game. The style of basketball is just not the same that they play in the WNBA, that they play in college basketball, to what is played in the NBA. The NBA, the National Basketball Association, is a lot of running gun. It's a ton of three-point shooting where it's a lot more post-ups. It's sort of like the WNBA is taking the same path as the NBA. They're just still in the 2000s. They haven't had that three-point revolution yet, where I think Caitlin Clark is their Steph Curry, and she's going to be the one that's going to bring the three-pointer into the game, that's going to increase the pace of play, and everyone is going to have to adjust to her style of basketball, where the NBA had that in Steph Curry. He completely changed the game with the three-point shooting. I think Caitlin Clark is the Steph Curry of the WNBA. But Dawn Staley for the Knicks just wouldn't work. It's not the same game, and especially going from men's college basketball to the NBA is hard. Going from women's college basketball to the NBA is even harder. So Dawn Staley wouldn't work out. However, Jalen Brunson and Dawn Staley, I remember them talking after a game. I don't remember what the exact connection was. I just know there is a connection between the two. I'm going to look it up right now because that could be an interesting point. Let me see. Knicks assistant Rick Brunson went to college in the 1990s, and while the two didn't overlap, that Temple connection links Staley with the Brunsons. Okay, so Dawn Staley attended Temple for her college, and as did Rick Brunson. I would assume they both played there, but there was a connection between Rick Brunson and Dawn Staley then. So that I was just thinking about that. And the other option that we're hearing about, Mike Brown, he's scheduled for a second interview. I am not excited whatsoever by Mike Brown. He's just not jumping off the page at me. He's sort of just like mediocre. Taylor Jenkins is the guy, if you had to ask me if there's one coach that's already in the NBA who I wanted. But the idea of a coach who I want is sort of one of those European coaches who are going to come in, teach that jump stop, pivot foot, ball movement, that style of basketball from overseas. I don't have a name for you. That's the sort of kind of coach I want. I doubt it happens because that it would just shock the NBA. It's probably going to be an assistant head coach or former head coach that's on the market right now. It's probably going to be Mike Brown if I had to make an assumption right now. All right, moving on to the Brooklyn Nets. I think the Nets had a very underwhelming draft, and it's because they didn't take a big name player. They took Igor Demon with their 8th overall pick, and Igor Demon, yeah, he's good from BYU, but he's not that big name star player, not the Ace Bailey, not the Dylan Harper, not that big-time guy that Nets fans were hoping for. This draft class could be really good. We just haven't heard of the guys, so we're not all too excited about them yet. I think the Nets can have a really good draft class if Jordi Fernandez and the Nets coaching staff are able to develop these prospects. It's a lot of guys from overseas, a lot of guys that we haven't heard about before. So it's not that they chose bad players. It's just that they chose guys that we don't know too much about. All right. Cam Johnson was traded for Michael Porter Jr. and a first-round pick, I believe. Cam Johnson was shopped at the trade deadline by the Nets. He wasn't dealt then, but he was dealt on the first day of free agency. And let me just say this. The shot chucking between Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr. is about to be ridiculous. It's going to be two guys fighting to take about 30 shots a game and two guys that don't even shoot the ball at an efficient rate. However, there's no expectations for this Brooklyn Nets team, so they're able to do that. There's no expectation that the Nets have to be a play-in team or have to be a playoff team or Jordi Fernandez's job is on the line. I mean, they don't have an all-star on that team right now. Unless Cam Thomas takes a big leap or unless they actually did get a stud in Igor Demon or Michael Porter Jr. is able to capitalize on not having to share the ball with a Nikola Jokic, I don't think there's an all-star on the Brooklyn Nets. Except for the fact that the East is wide open this season, so they could make a play-in tournament or the playoffs. If this Michael Porter Jr. Cam Thomas connection really works, I could see the Brooklyn Nets as a play-in team based on how awful the East is going to be this season. I think the Magic have a good chance of being the 3 seed. A lot of people think the Hawks are going to be a top 4 seed. Trae Young and Dyson Daniels and co. I'm not sold on that. The Pacers are not going to be great. They lost Miles Turner. I'll get to Miles Turner in a couple minutes here. And the Celtics, their starting lineup outside of Jaylen Brown isn't looking too strong right now. I mean, George Niang is in the starting lineup. Xavier Tillman was in the starting lineup for a little bit. I don't know what Joe Mazzulla and co are going to do. But the East is so open. There's got to be one team that is just going to take a leap. And I could really see it being the Brooklyn Nets out of the Barclays Center. I'm not sold on the Eastern Conference, and I do think that they could sneak in as one of the final 2 play-in teams. All right, now let me get to my national note on basketball. Damian Lillard getting waived by the Bucks. It's really confusing to me. Dame, I think he tore his Achilles. He definitely did. So he's going to be out all of next year. I'm interested to see if somebody's going to take a chance on him this season or wait until next offseason to sign him. He's going to be getting the remaining $111 million, I want to say. It's either $111 or $107 million over the next 5 years, but it opened up space to sign Miles Turner. He signed to, he's either the other 111 or 107. I forget. Dame is 107 and 111, and Miles Turner is the other one. So a move off of Brook Lopez. They have to waive Damian Lillard to the Bucks is to make room for Miles Turner, which is so interesting to me because Giannis has been surrounded by Brook Lopez, who is a 3-point shooting big man his whole career. That's really what Miles Turner is. Turner shoots the mid-range well too. This could mean 2 things. The Bucks are starting to blow things up, and Giannis Antetokounmpo might be next. Or they want to keep Giannis paired up with another shooting big man in the front court. I'm not sure. It could really go either way, but there is the option, there is the chance that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to move off Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, it's been talked about all offseason, and now it could be coming to fruition. All right, one football note, and then I'm going to wrap up this episode. Minkah Fitzpatrick getting traded for the combination of Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. I was just indifferent on this trade. I mean, if anything, I think the Steelers got the short end of the stick. Jalen Ramsey's production dipped a little bit last year, and I don't think Jonnu Smith is going to be that big of a target for Aaron Rodgers. And Minkah Fitzpatrick was still playing at the top of his game. It's sort of just like an indifferent trade for me. Like Ramsey's lack of production is made up for by Jonnu Smith. And for the Dolphins, they also traded for Darren Waller, who I thought was retired, but the Giants got something back for him. I couldn't tell you what it was. All I saw was that Darren Waller unretired and was traded from the Giants to the Dolphins. I don't know how that works, but it happened. So the Dolphins are making some moves. Clearly, this Minkah Fitzpatrick trade, I think they came out on the better side of it, although it's not really a better side. It's just an indifferent trade. The Steelers will still go 9-8 this season, and all will be good in the NFL world. All right, that's going to do it for the episode. If you want me to make more episodes like this, where it's kind of just a bunch of random sports topics, let me know. I didn't mind doing this. It was kind of fun, so I probably will do it again in the future. Also, go check out all my socials linked in the description below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow, download, and share this episode to a friend. I really appreciate it. And if you want to have your voice heard on the Sports Pod, you could leave me a voicemail with your sports questions and takes at 848-305-8073. And most importantly, make sure you keep it locked with the Sports Pod.